Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom version, as we still currently playing through right now, because the forms of the Nintendo Switch remake should be on its way. So, last time, we've essentially did manage able to win through the last few bits of challenges for the sake of the forms of some of these door challenges during the forms of Bowser's Keep. In addition to that, we also managed able to get some very good items here and there, or to be more specifically, certain weapons, mind you, for the likes of the forms of, you know, Geno's Star Gun, and also we did somehow beat not one boss fight, not two boss fights, but three boss fights in that particular matter. Like, for instance, we've already beaten the likes of the forms of Metro Koopa, and on top of that, we also beaten Boomer, and on top of that, we also managed to beaten XR. And once we deal with the forms of XR himself, that pretty much leads us to the final stretch of the game. However, I'm probably not going to tackle for the final stretch of the game just yet, mainly because, well, as for the subject for this video, as you probably can tell from this point, is that today for this video is about the fact that we're about to show you guys the final bits of extras before we get onto the actual final stretch of the game. And because of that though, as you can tell, we somehow managed able to get into the next platforming door challenge. And except the fact that this time around though, as I said before, is about the fact that every single challenges are pretty much randomized. Each time whenever you go back into that particular segment in Journey Forms of Bowser's Keep. Although keep this in mind is about the fact that we've only got two of those challenges left. And something tells me about the fact that once I did manage able to show off those two door challenges left, something tells me I still need to able to complete 4 of those door challenges still before I'm able to progress. So yeah, I don't know why I somehow managed able to do this though, but regardless of such though, I just want to classify it able to show this for the sake of extra content, of you can able to actually just do multiple things here and there. Apologize for like tongue twisting the end folks there, but that's just because about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that we're still on the midway point for the likes of the forms of the mini Heatwave week so far. And something tells me about the fact that I believe Bubbles did actually tell me something, that she wants me to able to go to the beach tomorrow, which as a result, I'm actually up for it. Especially noticeable because during at some point until tomorrow, my god, it will be extremely hot during the forms of tomorrow, which I know that might be seems a little bit random for saying this, but regardless of such though, I'm very looking forward to able to go to the beach until tomorrow with Bubbles, and maybe I and Mars will also invite not only for Mighty, but also for Blossom as well, just in case we can able to spend some time together. So, oh, and by the way, something's worth noting for, with that particular second platforming challenges, as you can tell, that basically though, once again, we have to jump from like platform to platform on the first segment, and the second segment is that we get able to actually ride on this little black ball thingy right there, in order able to reach for higher places, in order able to actually get certain items and goodies and stuff like that. Like for instance, as you saw, that we actually got ourselves our max mushrooms here and there, and something tells me I do need to able to get rid of something. So yeah, I'm also able to get rid of one of those max mushrooms from now on, mainly because we've already still managed to got them. And relatively speaking though, every time you get hit by the bomb, as you can tell, basically though, you lose coins in the process, and on top of that, you go all the way back to the beginning portion of the room. So yeah, you need to be very cautious with that, especially noticeable, you need to get used to with the actual controls and movement, because something tells me about the fact that, I don't know if it's just me, but every time whenever I go back onto the forms of the black ball in the first place, I believe something tells me is that the control directions have been altered slightly. So maybe I'm wrong, but then again though, it has been about a couple of hours ago since I actually have last played this for sure, and yeah, I somehow got cornered, but that's okay, because I've only got about, let's just say 6 chances left. But I will say, out of all the actual challenges in Journey Forms of Bowser's Keep door challenges, as far as I'm concerned, between this one, alongside with the forms of a quiz challenge, I will say that those two challenges are by far the hardest, mainly because about the fact that, well, for this particular platforming segment, if you couldn't tell, that, you know, as I said before, we have to do with a lot of emphasis on isometric platforming you have to deal with, and if you keep on messing up, then you have to restart all the way back to the beginning portion of that particular challenge if you keep trying. And on top of all that stuff though, luckily for me, we might able to actually get ourselves some even more flower points rather than need able to grind most of them. So just to ensure about the fact that hopefully we're able to guarantee by saying this is that once we make our way towards the end game, obviously we will be able to actually, I think it's definitely possible that we can able to make our way to a maximum of 99 flower points. So that will be super top notch, even especially noticeable at the specific point. That is a good thing we actually did manage to able to do some, you know, other stuff worth noting for when it comes to likely, you know, getting certain nice items for flower jars as well as the forms of flower items here and there. So yeah, I guess that must have been said something. So anyway though, so yeah, a few things I want to explain for this point today, and that's what appears to be about the fact that today's date is of course the 5th of September today, in some cases in 2023 today. Naturally speaking though, is that next week is that the Apple event is going to take place in next week. So again, I wonder if about the fact that with iPhone 15 is going to exist anyway, but you never know, especially noticeable because there's a lot of rumors and leaks that keeps on about it. So even then, no, I don't able to address the actual elephant in the room at this for the sake of time, until specifically when Sonic goes back onto Sonic Frontiers for the majority of the forms of the, you know, continue uploading schedules for Sonic Frontiers, all things considered. So, and yeah, I'm also able to go ahead and get rid of pick-me-ups for now, because obviously about the fact that since that we still got Princess Toadstool into our team party members, but obviously about the fact that she will definitely going to be using comeback special move. So, and I'm almost very close to get screwed up right there, even especially noticeable about the fact that that's what I mean about the fact that in the hardest points in towards the end game basically, that I feel like that the isometric platforming might felt a bit of a struggle for my part. So, but either way though, but again, it does kind of reminds me of the forms of one of those ending levels for the sake of the forms of not only for Gene Gadget Zone from Sonic 3D Blast, but also with the forms of maybe Panic Puppet as an example as well. That I swear to God that with those moving shifting platforms, it always feels a bit, you know, very awkward to deal with. So anyway, so we got ourselves our next and presumably the final weapon for Mellow, and that's what appears to be body forms of Sonic symbols. So as a result, that will be very, very useful, and especially noticeable that it actually contains the pretty cool effect if you time your attacks successfully. So even then though, so that was going to go back on to door number 6, and because of that, we're now entering onto the final challenge room. Technically speaking, that's what appears to be Battle Course 2. So, I believe something tells me about the fact that we might able to actually stumble across into certain enemies that we have not encountered before. So, because obviously, with the forms of Battle Course 1, that I will admit though right away is about the fact that in Battle Course 1 that we've already technically done, since during the forms of it yesterday, that most of those enemies are entirely based around the forms of the previous areas, as far as I'm concerned, like all reused enemies and stuff like that. I think something tells me in during the forms of Battle Course 2, as we currently on to right now, we will able to actually stumble across into ourselves some new enemies that we can able to encounter. Well, some of them, but most of them, that'll be for later. So even then though, yeah, let's get the actual explanation out of the way first when it comes to the forms of that particular news and discussions alike. Obviously about the fact that, there might be another rumor has been going on at the moment, despite the fact that I don't usually trust rumors and leaks anymore, just because of tricking stuff. But as a result, maybe if it's a possibility that we might able to get ourselves our next PlayStation Direct kind of style, which is of course State of Play, at some point in this month in particular, which is September. But then again though, we'll have to wait and find out during that specific time. Mind you, I haven't exactly watched that much of State of Play, because obviously about the fact that aside from few exciting stuff they obviously brings us something into, but I feel like about the fact I think to me that Nintendo Direct is a little bit more superior in my opinion. because not only because of its length, but also about the fact that it gives us some tons of surprises of what the actual thing installs for us. So, which is especially noticeable at that specific point that we keep on predicting certain things for the likes of certain Nintendo things, but chances are though, it always catches off guard for certain unexpected announcements during that specific period. So, that's why about the fact that I'm always into hype of Nintendo Directs more than any forms of our deficit for State of Play or Xbox Showcase, because I honestly don't seem to able to buy too much PlayStation 4 stuff as much as the next guy, especially noticeable because the only reason why I brought the PS4 in the first place is because of Kingdom Hearts games. Not on top of that, certain Sonic games being released on that system alongside with the Xbox One, just to ensure I can able to actually go ahead and, you know, go back into certain Sonic games I've already completed in one of the versions, or anything else to be more specific, because I love playing some Sonic games from time to time, so I'm biased, I guess. So anyway though, there's also another thing I should probably address something in the thing itself as well, is that one thing I surprisingly forgot to comment on back in during the events of about a couple of days ago or something like that. That's what appears to be about the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, when it comes to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, there is that new feature that has been added, for most notably for its online play, and as a result, it is going to contain those special collectibles called standees, and as far as I'm aware, that basically you can able to actually place one of those standees in certain spots of the level, so just in case you can able to actually let someone else revive themselves by simply able to actually touch the actual the standees themselves, and chances are though is about the fact that you can able to actually just to go ahead and back on track for able to actually not to worry about the forms of the time limit once you became a ghost. So I will say about the fact that turning into the ghost variants of the forms of certain characters if they do die in a level is actually a pretty unique idea, especially noticeable because, well, relatively speaking though, well, I should probably want to able to address that in a later time, mainly because about the fact that enduring that some form or another, that, as far as I'm aware, when it comes to the forms of how many standees they were able to contain, for the sake of the forms of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, I think it's going to contain about roughly 144 standees. So yeah, that seems, you know, a lot. Which, obviously about the fact that because they really encourages you to able to buy, you know, buy a lot of stuff, thanks to the forms of, you know, the flower coins as currency, you know, something very similar to regional coins from Super Mario Odyssey, except the fact that, well, you can able to actually collect the insane amount of those flower coins in any level, so even then though, that might actually get some a little bit more, you know, replayability every time whenever you do want able to go for a full 100% experience, or to be more specifically, full 100% completion requirement, so... But either way though, that's saying something I suppose, so... Oh, and also recently it's about the fact that me and Bubbles, Mighty, and Blossom, and especially noticeable for Blue and Jewel, are already packed up for the likes of the Falls of the Small Holiday Break for the likes of next week. And I should also mention about this as well is that I believe Tiago, Baya, and Color are also going to be coming as well, just being able to actually get their fun times for them and all that stuff. So even though, again, there's not much explanations for the sake of convenience that is, but at the same time though, it's about the fact that it's nice to be able to deserve a nice little holiday break once again. I believe the last time we actually did manage to have ourselves a holiday break, that's what appears to be in June Falls of in March, despite the fact that how ridiculously windy that is. Even especially noticeable, it was on March, and despite the fact that the weather conditions is just all over the place during that time. So I'm really hoping about that, well, the weather conditions might be a little bit of a step up from the likes of the forms of how it does it on March, but even though no, I suppose we'll also able to find out more details about that during a later time. Alright, so we all know the drill is about the fact that since we're going to be faced off against with these dry bones, so we can devastate the actual Geno flash attack, so just in case we can able to blow them up, and at the same time we're able to finish them off like so. Booyah! 4 kills in one specific attack. So, I love satisfaction like this, you know? So, yeah, in terms of other stuff I would like to mention about this as well, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, I think relatively speaking though, is about the fact that, speaking of the forms of something related to Nintendo Live, during the forms of in 2023, I did not know there was actually a band concert there during the course of the forms of Nintendo Live 2023, or to be more specifically, they did a concert band of Super Mario Super Big Band. As a result, they did somehow manage able to compose the forms of the Super Mario Bros. Movie Level Complete soundtrack. So as a result, it does sound a little bit more similar to the forms of how it does it on the actual official soundtrack of that particular point's worth noting for. But even then though, that might be saying something, I suppose. So either way, oh, it looks like we stumbled across into ourselves the yet another treasure chest incarnation, and as far as I'm aware, this one is by far is the strongest of the bunch. So as a result, I'm not able to actually look this up anyway. So I believe his name is Chester. I believe Chester does have about 1,200 HP, so that considered this to be a lot. And there are a few rare occasions where basically he decides to summon one of those enemies right here, which luckily, this is the only enemy that we have not seen yet, which appears to be by the forms of Bahamut. Bahamut is basically a red dragon, basically, and he does have 500 HP, but it does not give you any experience points or coins at all. So, the only one we need to be curious about is, of course, Chester himself, because as far as I'm aware, I believe you do get about 200 coins if you finish him off, and on top of that, you also get 150 experience points if you concerning able to finish him off like so. But I will admit though right away though is that Chester might actually take a very long while to able to actually finish him off like so. Especially noticeable because sometimes his attack power is a little bit more devastating, but regardless of such though, since that we keep on utilizing the forms of Mario's Ultra Jump or something like that, that means we did somehow manage to kick his butt, no problem. So even though chances are, you know, equipping certain things is always a key here, so... Oh, he's not down yet. Hopefully we'll finish him off. Not yet. How about now? And there we go. And I think, relatively speaking, though, is about the fact that I believe... Oh, we got ourselves yet another level up. And this time we're now on to level 22. That sounds quite convenient, that is. So, I'm also going for... Yeah, let's go for HP. And also, Mello is also on to level 22 as well. So, I'm thinking that maybe HP might be the most ideal thing to do. And on top of that, we made our way to the very end of that particular challenge right there. So... And because of that, we somehow managed to get ourselves the final weapon for Bowser, and that's what appears to be Drill Claw. So, I'll meet you guys back in Journey Forms of Nimbus Lands to focus on the last few extras. So, yeah, I'll meet you guys back. Alright, we made our way back into the forms of Nimbus Land, despite the fact that I have to do this off screen, just in case about the fact that I was wanted able to actually wrap things up everything for the actual challenge doors again, despite the fact that, like I said before, I still need to able to complete 4 of those challenges, so I decided able to choose two random ones. So even then though, and I believe in off screen, I did somehow not only leveled up Bowser, but also stabilized with Geno and Toadstool as well. So because of that though, yeah, it looks like everyone else has now reached to level 22 at this point. So even then though, yeah, it feels like about the fact that we've now almost become overpowered during that time. But I'm sure enough though is about the fact that hopefully we're able to grind some more experience points once we make our way towards the end game basically. So even then though, now I just want to classify for something is that once we make our way to the Ian, basically though, if you talk to this guy right here, it actually gives you an offer you can able to actually take a rest. But here's the catch of this though, is about the fact that you can able to utilize a royal pillow, and basically you do need to pay the ridiculous amount of coins. But if you do manage to select that option, I believe you do trigger not only 1 dream sequence, but also 3 dream sequence here and there. Although, I'm only going to be showing one of them, but that's just because about the fact that with this entire sequence, as you can tell, about the fact that I believe this is the nightmare dream as far as this is concerned, where Toad turned into the forms of a weird creeper enemy or something like that, and as a result, Mario got frightened as soon as he got woken up, thanks to the forms of how Toad usually appears. And on top of that, we get ourselves a nice little freebie item as well. So even then, though, that's actually super awesome and everything, because to me, Toad is an awesome character in my opinion. And oh, I did not notice he actually got me 2 of these things. So I think no matter what, though, I'm also able to go ahead and also trying to get rid of the forms of Max Mushroom, because, I mean, sure enough though, about the fact that since that we still got Group Hug every once in a while for the sake of the forms of Princess Toadstool, so even then though, I think it seems kind of pointless to able to actually keep on buying mushrooms from now on, so even then though, so yeah, we somehow save our game, so even then though, I suppose that's all we can show off for the sake of the forms of the last portion of the forms of Nimbus Land, and straight to the point about the fact that we can now able to go ahead and tackle through, let's just say, the final part of the forms of the Monstro Town. And because of that though, there is that one specific thing that we somehow ignored throughout the majority of the playthrough so far, until we've decided able to go back into Monstro Town for, presumably, for the final time. And because of that though, since that we still got ourselves our shiny stone with us, that means about the fact that there might be something important if we somehow manage to investigate for a moment. And I believe we did somehow already experience those other rooms, except the one in the middle. So let me just go ahead and investigate that. And what's this? The shining stone is reacting, and something tells me the seal of this door has been broken, so that means we can able to go inside here. But if you're probably wondering what's inside in here, well, that's essentially what I'm gonna do is that I've decided able to stick around for not only for Princess Toadstool, as you probably already expect, with the forms of equipped the actual lazy shell, and on top of that, we also managed to decide to bring in Geno to the table, just because about the fact that with the special attacks of very super devastation, especially concerning about the particular point that I think someone did say, back in the past few years anyway, the actual thing we're about to show you guys is without a doubt, is the hardest boss battle in the entire game. Although, relatively speaking though, it is entirely optional, but if you want to get something that is grand and rewarding, well, prepare yourselves for this. Especially noticeable because I need to figure out the correct equipment for the likes of not only for Mario, but also for Princess Toadstool and for Geno as well, so I think I might as well be all said and done. Although, I was expecting to able to also include Bowser or Mallow, but I get the strong feeling about the fact that without Princess Toadstool, that gives us a lot of disadvantage, and on top of that, keep on wasting a lot of items for our item inventory, so I think we should be all set now. So even then, let's go in here, and it seems we stumbled across this very mysterious figure. I wonder who that is. Now, I'm sure about the fact that most of the Final Fantasy fans out there will be expecting to know who that is. So, but either way, and yeah, this pretty much leads us to the secret optional boss fight. So because of that though, yeah, it continues that tradition during the forms of the later RPGs to come, like Kingdom Hearts, alongside with the forms of maybe the Mario Luigi games, like presumably for its you know, marathon kind of battle ring or something. But either way though, that's saying something I suppose. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this what appears to be Buddy forms of as what people is expecting, that this is without a doubt is the toughest boss battle in the entire game of Super Mario RPG, and his name was Kulix. Kulix does have not only the insane amount of HP, but also as you can see on screen is that we also need to deal with not one, not two, not three, but 4 different crystals. So as a result, that he does manage able to have himself not only the fire crystal, but also the water crystal, earth crystal, and finally the wind crystal. Now, let me bring this up right from the start though, is that this is the perfect example of why I've decided able to bring Princess Toadstool in this battle, especially she already got equipped the lazy shell, because obviously the defense for her is really, really good. especially concerning about that particular point, as I said before. Peach, she's basically just white mage from the Final Fantasy games, basically, that you can do, like, healing stuff and all that stuff, and also at the same time with the forms of Cream the Rabbit from the likes of Sonic Chronicles, The Dark Brotherhood. So, oh, and did you guys know that basically, for those of you who lived in Japan, that the game was called in a different name for the sake of the forms of Sonic Chronicles, The Dark Brotherhood, that usually Sonic Chronicles, The Dark Brotherhood was actually a well-known name for the likes of the English version, but if you ever get the Japanese version of the game, it calls the game a little bit differently, which it still says Sonic Chronicles, but the subtitle of the game is entirely different, which as a result is gonna call it Sonic Chronicles Invaders from the Dark Dimension. So, kind of interesting, all things considered, with that particular alternative title of the game in the Japanese version. So yeah, I thought it was a little bit interesting, especially concerning that I believe Sonic doesn't even know that until now. So even then, it's a good thing I did somehow explain it until now. So either way though, let's get into the forms of the actual status for the sake of the forms of not only Kulix, but also with the forms of not only 1 but 4 crystals that we can able to think about the actual status for how much HP they've got. So now, despite the fact that it does not give you any coins at all, so because of that though, I'm only going to be bringing out the forms of how much HP they've got. For instance, Fire Crystal does have 2,500 HP, jeez, and on top of that it gives you 40 experience points, I'm assuming so anyway, and that's about it basically. For Water Crystal does have 1,800 HP, so it's a little bit lower than the forms of how it does it for Fire Crystal, and relatively speaking though, it does give you 30 experience points as far as I'm aware. Now, compared to the forms of the Yellow Crystal known as the Earth Crystal, it does have a lot of HP. 3,200 HP, that's insane. And on top of that, it gives you 50 experience points, and that's about it. And finally, the 4th crystal is the Wind Crystal, which out of all the actual crystals in this battle, the Wind Crystal seems to have lesser amounts of HP. It only has like 800 HP, and on the other hand, it does not give you any experience points at all. So, I honestly have no idea why they somehow managed can't be bothered able to give us the actual experience points at first glance. So, oh well, no big deal, because aside from the fact that we still got Princess Toadstool into our party, so even then though, and believe me, certain attacks for not only for Kulix, but also with certain crystals here and there as well, is actually incredibly powerful. So there might be a couple of times though, as you can tell, that we got to come across into a lot of death situations for not only for Mario, but also for Geno as well. Except for Princess Peach or Princess Toadstool, luckily, just because, as I said before, we still managed to equip the Lazy Shell. So because of that though, I highly recommend you able to go for this, because, you know, as I said before, this is without a doubt the hardest boss battle in the entire game. I could imagine about the fact that the Switch remake will be a little bit more stunning to see, especially concerning about the particular point is actually a pretty cool thing back in the day, in 1996 of all things, that basically though with the forms of how the fact that since that this game has been made by not only for Nintendo, but also Squaresoft at one point. So yeah, that does seems pretty awesome while looking back on this though, so. And it looks like about the fact that my 2 characters have died, so I suppose there can only be one thing. I'm also able to go ahead and use the pick-me-ups for Mario for right now. Although I was expecting to able to actually utilize comeback, but I'm probably not gonna able to use it all that much. Oh geez, Dark Star. That is very dangerous for that particular attack, and it seems that Mario almost dies at one point, so luckily though he still lived for about a little amount of HP left, but luckily we did somehow revive Geno, so hopefully that will give us a benefit for the doubt when it comes to able to try to deal the ridiculous amount of damage to not only Kulix, but also with the forms of certain crystals here and there. Now, I must be honest here, I'm obviously going to be aiming for the Earth Crystal, because Earth Crystal, as I said before, does have a lot, I mean a lot of HP when it comes to the forms of one of those 4 crystals that we have to take down. So, although sometimes though this entire battle will take a very long time to beat, especially concerning this is a secret and the optional boss fight after all. So, yeah, prepare to be tested of all things, especially noticeable you never know of what certain attacks that Kulex might able to do at you. So, including certain crystals here and there as well. So, although I will say, this entire boss battle theme is actually super awesome, especially noticeable you might be familiar with this musical track if you ever experienced one of those Final Fantasy games before. Oh, that attack right there, that actually gets rid of your status, so even then though, luckily that we did not able to actually activate something more accurately like a status boost, luckily, so even then though, I think it's probably best able to utilize not only healing your HP, but also with certain flower points every once in a while, if you're almost running out of the forms of those flower points from the get-go. So, anyway, let's get into the forms of Kulex himself, in this case the main, unit, or to be more specifically, the main threat of this entire battle. Kulex does have, I'm not kidding, what I'm saying is, he does have a lot of HP as well. So as a result, he does have 4,096 HP. Jeez Louise. And on top of that, if you defeat her, I believe he gives you a larger amount of those experience points, specifically 600 experience points. So yeah, that does seem quite a lot, especially noticeable. Again, this is the optional secret boss after all, so everything else though is about the fact that, well, as you can see, we've already taken down the forms of the wind crystal, which again, it does only have like 800 HP, so as a result, about the fact that we've only got 3 crystals left, and I highly recommend you also need to able to choose Geno Flash special attack, so just in case not only it actually damaged the forms of not only Kulex, but also with other crystals here and there as well. And luckily, we've already taken down the Earth crystals, so thankfully we don't need to worry about the forms of the most dangerous crystal in the entire battle, so yeah, everything else will be all come together for the sake of time, so even then though, oh yeah, I want to be able to address something as well, and that's what it appears to be about the fact that, well, it seems to be more specifically though, is about the fact that recently, there's going to be some new control skins for not only for the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controllers, but same applies with the forms of DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5, and also Xbox Series X, and finally the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. And from what I can tell, it's actually going to be based around from an ND game called Cult of the Lamb. So as a result, that it does look pretty cool though with the specific control skins, even though despite the fact that they are pretty much in a limited edition offering. So even though, yeah, it does seem very cool though with all these cool patterns and everything else to be more specific. So even though that, well, I'm more curious about the forms of that particular, well, the actual art style of that particular skins in mind. So anyway, so we only got 1 crystal left, and now we can able to take on the forms of Kulex himself. So anyway though, oh, I want to able to address something as well, and that's what it appears to be about the fact that apparently though, that when it comes to Toy Story 5 is about to be coming up. Basically though, if what I've noticed on the article, they did say about the fact that, presumably speaking, that Andy's daughter and wife will be introduced in Toy Story 5. I'm not exactly sure if I feel about this, especially noticeable because I know for a fact that a lot of people seem to complain about that Toy Story 5 is a bit unnecessary at this point, especially noticeable because my main concern is that Disney really wants money so badly after the forms of a lot of box office flops during the forms of in the past few years, mainly due to the forms of the pandemic years, and on top of all that stuff though with the marketing strategy, and as a result of that particular matter though, it seems about the fact that I just got nothing else to say about that, so but I digress. And also, for I've heard about the fact that, imagine about the fact that some people also complains about, that imagine if the second season of She-Hulk is about to happen, and I'm like, my face will be slapped whenever I saw that, because I don't know about you, I feel like that She-Hulk is the most boring Marvel series I've ever seen, mainly because it keeps on breaking the fourth wall most of the time. And on top of all that stuff though, it's all about the forms of like Although it's hard to say about this, honestly, because I know for a fact it has been about a couple of months ago since I have last watched She-Hulk on Disney+. But that's mainly because I feel like that the entire series is just boring in general. And especially it doesn't help about that particular point that, well, I just found it a little bit, I don't know, I just felt a little bit snore-fest at one point. So, and it's definitely not the greatest series, I might add. Well, thankfully though, specifically until next month, that exponentially we're most able to see the second season for the likes of Loki. So even though that gives me a lot of hype for it and high expectations for it, so everything else though will be come to expect at that point. So now I suppose the last thing I want to mention though before this battle is about to be end, basically though is about the fact that I believe that one of those episodes in particular from the likes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, specifically Season 8, on the, well, let's just say one of those episodes usually mainly focuses on not only Starlight Glimmer, but also with the great and powerful Trixie, or something like that. The episode called On the Road to Friendship, or simply calls it Road to Friendship and stuff like that. One thing I did not address something about this as well is that that episode has officially became 5 years old during that time, and I still will have to admit it though right away, that episode is really good. Although, unlike the forms of how it does it on one of those episodes in particular called Yakety Sack, my god, that episode is quite embarrassing. Although, I would say that Yakety Sack is probably my second least favorite episode in terms of the forms of the entire show itself. Well, along with the forms of non-compete clause, that was definitely the worst one. So, oh yeah, as soon as that battle ends, I love with that particular victory fanfare based off from the likes of Final Fantasy. That's actually a pretty cool touch. And also you can able to hear that calming music in the background as well. So yeah, that's actually pretty, well, atmospheric as well. So even I know, yeah, it's a pretty cool throwback to the forms of that particular Final Fantasy stuff here and there. So, which then again though, I cannot wait to see how that particular boss battle is going to turn out to be when the Switch remake of Super Mario RPG is about to be coming, especially noticeable on a grander scale for its presentation and all that stuff. So anyway, so once you defeat the forms of Kulex, then obviously you get yourselves a special accessory called Quartz Charm. So even I know that might be something worth a while, especially noticeable because concerning about the particular points, once that particular part is over, then something tells me about the fact that we can no longer go back into that particular door again, because that particular door has been gone completely. Although you can able to actually technically want able to have a rematch against with him, assuming of course if you really want able to save 2 save files for that particular different time of playtime or something like that. But honestly about the fact that since that we've now finally done with the forms of the optional secret boss fight, that means we are basically done with the majority of the extras in Super Mario RPG. Although technically there are some extras I'm somewhat missing, but regardless of such though, it's about the fact that I'm shown quite enough of those extras actually, for the sake of the forms of the majority of Super Mario RPG so far. So I'm actually quite impressed about the fact that how my progression actually turns out to be. So, and as a result about the particular matter though, as I said before, that we are basically done everything for the likes of the forms of Monstro Town completely. So everything else though, we can now able to simply go back into the forms of the final area in the game, which as it turns out, we're now going to be approaching onto the final stretch in Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars. And presumably speaking though is about the fact that hopefully we're able to actually I think my biggest prediction when it comes to the forms of the leveling up progression as far as I'm aware, I'm hoping we can able to reach for about level 25 for Mario anyway, because I know for a fact that Mario is the main leader when it comes to the forms of, you know, getting the actual party members going, for the sake of the forms of trying to get certain progression as far as I'm concerned. And I have no idea why I choose the wrong area, which is of course Barrel Volcano, but that's okay though, because the spring is nowhere near as far away, so we can able to jump back onto the spring as we go, and instead of going onto the forms of Barrel Volcano again, so we'll head our way back to Bowser's Keep, and select the gate, just to ensure about the fact that we can able to get into the final stretch in the game. So even then though, I can't believe by saying this, as I said before, we are getting very, very, very close towards the end of this entire game, which I know for a fact that the entire journey experience is actually quite a big journey, I might add. So, but then again though, I'll bring out some more details about that particular topic once we get into Friday, basically. Spoiler alert for those of you who want to know what's gonna come. So anyways though, I think suffice to say, I think we should probably end things off at this point right here. So join me next time for more Let's Play of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Is that we're going to be pursuing our way to the gates and presumably battle some more enemies and all that stuff. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.